The recent announcement that Facebook co-founder Eduardo Saverin has given up his U.S. passport has highlighted the issue of Americans wanting to do so who live overseas. I'm Deborah. You're watching Asia Today. I'm joined now by Eugene Chow, principal at law firm Chow King. Eugene, thanks very much for joining me. Okay. Eduardo Saverin, he's said to be worth over somewhere in the area of $2 billion US. So how difficult is it for a person like him to give up his U.S. passport?
Well, the law applies equally to everybody, whether you're a billionaire or you're just an ordinary Joe. But one thing the U.S. does do is that, contrary to popular belief, you do not get off scot-free and not have to pay taxes just because you renounce your U.S. citizenship. There is, in fact, an exit tax that you pay Uncle Sam for the privilege of departing from the United States.
Okay, and what exactly does the exit tax consider? I mean, what types of things are you taxed on?
Well, the exit tax only applies to people that the law calls covered expatriates. A covered expatriate is not a disease. A covered expatriate is someone that has either been paying high U.S. federal taxes, or someone who has a net worth of $2 million or more, or someone who is unable to certify under penalty of perjury that he or she has been in full compliance with all U.S. federal tax obligations for the 5 years immediately preceding expatriating from the U.S.
But the one thing about this exit tax is it considers assets abroad, right, acquired overseas.
That's true. Since the law was amended because Congress was concerned about wealthy Americans departing from our shores with a tax windfall, you are taxed as though you realized appreciated assets even though you haven't sold them. So, for example, if you own a home here in Hong Kong and it's appreciated, if you leave on the day before, it's marked to market based on the fair market value, and there's a pretend sale, if you will, of the asset, and you will have to pay a 15% capital gains tax on that.
Okay, so someone like Saverin, obviously he renounced his U.S. citizenship pre-IPO, pre-Facebook IPO. He still owns about 3% of the company. But will someone like him in the end save a lot of money? I mean, his spokesperson has said he's doing this for investment purposes and not for taxes. But let's look at, you know, someone like him tax-wise. Is he in the end going to save a lot of money?
Well, no one has a crystal ball. Theoretically, Facebook could tank, and he might not have any tax savings, so to speak. I think it's all a matter of, at that point in time, if the last fair market value appraisal of Facebook is at a particular number, and it goes crazy on the IPO, yeah, he would have saved some money. However, he would have to still pay capital gains tax on the gain at the time that the shares were deemed to have been sold.
Okay, and how difficult is it overall for people to give up their passports? I mean, is it a procedural process, or how difficult is it?
Well, I think the most important thing about giving up a passport is not just look at the present, but to look at the client's overall situation. There are oftentimes people that come to see me, and after weighing all the pros and cons, it may not be in the person's advantage to give up his or her passport, because I don't know, not to wave the American flag, but half the world wants to become an American, and the people that are choosing to leave are only a small handful.
Okay, and those people choosing to leave, are they, you know, millionaires, billionaires like Eduardo Saverin, or are they everyday people?
Well, the media loves to focus on the billionaires, but in reality, there are people that have changed circumstances. There are people in the financial industry that have lived and worked in Singapore or Hong Kong for the last 10, 15, 20 years. They might have married a foreign spouse. They might believe that their future really is overseas rather than back in the United States. So it could be anywhere, all across the board.
Okay, and given the stricter rules that the U.S. has imposed now on exiting and renouncing it, are you seeing less people are doing so because it actually costs a lot of money to exit?
Well, the exit tax is one thing. I think more Americans I see in the last 2-3 years are motivated because of the fact that the U.S. keeps passing more regulatory rules that make it very painful for Americans overseas to function. I have Americans that have been told that they cannot have a securities account, even though they have been a good client of a bank in Hong Kong for the last 10, 15 years, because they don't want the business, because the The IRS is essentially outsourcing its compliance rules to non-American related companies, and they're just saying to Americans, we don't want your business. So that's more of a practical reason that some people choose to give up their passports to make it less complicated life living overseas.
Okay, thanks very much, Eugene Chow. You're watching Asia Today. I'm Deborah Kahn.